Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I am the Queen of York, and if you're new here, make sure you subscribe. I love to play The Sims 4 and build houses and decorate them. Today is a speed build and it's based on a building by Ricardo Legoretta. I think that's how you say his name. It's a Spanish mansion. I actually saw this image on Pinterest ages ago and I just thought it had such a cool view with it looking down over the pool, and I just searched that image and found what the house was called and then tried to recreate it, and it was such a challenge. I mean, it was really fun, but it was a challenge. I really loved that the exterior had this like bright orange wall covering, so it was very orange, and I've never built a house that's so bright. Like, I would never think to put orange on the outside of a house, so that was fun doing that. And also, if you look into the images and look up Ricardo Legoretta, he uses a lot of contrasting bright colors. So in this house there's a bit of orange and yellow on the exterior, and I think pink or purple if I remember correctly, but it was a big challenge. So it's a modern style and it's built on multiple different levels, which you can't do in The Sims 4. So trying to work my way around those issues was a challenge, but it was a fun challenge nevertheless. So I originally started building it in Oasis Springs down by the grassier area, but the lot was just too small, and I knew I wanted it in Oasis Springs because of the desert climate. I just thought it would look really nice with the bright orange building and the foliage with the cactuses and stuff, because when I do my landscaping I like to make sure that it all fits perfectly or quite nicely with the surrounding area, because you can't change the plants or anything that is outside of the lot. So I want to make sure that it fits with the town and how it's decorated already. I have actually had to speed up the footage quite a lot, so this is 10 times speed. I normally do 8 times speed for my tutorials or my speed builds even, but because it just took me so long to build this house, it is quite a large house. It took me ages, so to prevent you having to sit through an hour of speed building, I did extend it to I did speed it up, to 10 times speed, and I did try and cut out as many pauses as possible while I was looking at reference images, just so I could get it kind of as right as possible. But I tried to cut out as many of those pauses as possible just to shorten the video, but it is still quite long. When I was watching it through, initially I thought it was just too fast because it was faster than I was used to, but now that I've watched it through once, it's actually not too bad. So let me know in the comments down below if you think this speed is okay for future speed builds, or if you prefer the slower speeds of my other videos, which are 8 times speed. For the garden section, this is a bit where the image that caught my eye initially, so the semi bird's eye view down onto this lounge area, and that's kind of the section that I was just working on there, just trying to get that patio and raised platform for that eating area, so it shows the different heights, because that was something that I really liked about the image, the use of height or platforms. So I kind of wanted to use that as much as possible. And then trying to get the look to be the same as real life is quite difficult in The Sims, so you have to kind of play around and kind of make it as good as possible, and it's not always spot on, but I think in the end it turned out quite similar. At the moment I'm just trying to work out how to get like a stepped step effect down with the walls, but the problem is there's such a big jump between some of the wall heights for the half walls that it kind of it worked for some of them, and then it just had this huge step. So I don't know, I do keep it in the end, but I put that bush fence in front just to distract from the big jump with the half wall and the steps. So the actual shape of the house is pretty much finished now. It doesn't change a lot. It's just the deciding on what heights to have these walls took me a long time, and I played around a lot with heights and options for everything like that. Yeah, to be honest, it took me so long to do this build. It took, I think, 3 days of like solid work just to get this right and furnished. And for the furnishing, I wanted it to be a bit more eclectic and more colourful than I normally decorate, because the exterior is so colourful. I feel like the people who would live here would be a bit more open to more eccentric styles and colours than my typical houses, which are a bit more muted and maybe neutral. And also it's a fun challenge just to try a different type of style and furnishing style, so that you can just kind of test out different things. I mean, in my real life, I like to have white walls and more neutral tones, but it was fun to do something different. Right now I'm just trying to work out a flower bed situation. I kind of wanted a raised flower bed around the house, so I've just put these platforms outside and then just spreading them around the house, just playing around with the heights. And I did think about putting the house on a patio or platform, but in the end I didn't like it, and I didn't want to have stairs down the side where it's got those faux glass windows. Well, glass windows, that's stupid. Windows are glass. Where it had the windows looking like glass doors that swing open. So I didn't want steps there. So that's why I took the platform away. And I just didn't want it to be too high or too imposing, because I just like a modern house with low walls. I just think a modern house, when it has the walls are too high, is just looks a bit odd and just not very natural or realistic. And I know this is Sims, so it's not actual real life, but I like to make it as realistic as possible with the design and the way things are laid out. But yeah, still working on the roofing section. This, like I said, this took ages because I was just trying to work out what size half walls to use to give definition and make it a little bit different. Instead of having just one height across the whole top of the wall, I wanted it to be different and just have a bit of character and add dimension to the house. The living space in this house is quite small, considering the size of the property, the cost of the property, and also the lot size. The actual living space takes up very, very little space, and it's all quite crammed, which I like. I don't like playing with super big houses. I find them quite difficult, especially if they're multi-leveled. I like my houses to be kind of on one level so that I don't have to flip between, and I can just see my Sims as they wander around and get on with their lives, kind of thing. But now I'm pretty much finished with the shape of the house, and I'm just adding some windows in just to make it look as close to the original as possible. I do go back and forth a lot, so when I've finished one section, I do go back and then delete it all and do it again, because I don't know, I probably was seeing different reference images and realised that something just wasn't quite right. So I do change it a lot, and later on when I get to the section where I add the wall trims, it honestly takes so long to get it right. And I do the trick that I've done on many houses before, where I use a very thin fencing just to make separate rooms on the roofs and within the rooms, just so I can put the wall trim just on a particular section and not on the whole room, because that's the way it works in The Sims 4. So it furnishes it adds the wall trim to a room instead of to just the section that you want, or just a single tile. So I use the fencing, and it takes so long, and it is very jumpy and spinny, so I do apologize. If you do want this to be slower, you can slow it down on YouTube. Just go, I think it's like on the screen there's like dots, the 3 dots I think, and then you can change the speed that it plays back. So you do have the option of slowing it down if you wanted to. But as I said, I've watched it through and it's not too bad, especially when I get into the furnishing. It slows down a lot. It's just this initial building, especially when I'm looking at the angles of everything to make sure that it's as correct as possible. But like I said, I did try and cut out as much as I could so that you guys didn't get motion sick or anything like that. So now I've coloured the exterior with this orange colour, which I just think looks so nice, especially with the yellow in the desert sand and the like brown rusty colors of the rocks. I just think it like makes it pop a bit more. And also an issue I have with Oasis Springs is the light generator. So the lighting, especially when you try to use white on the exterior of a house, it never looks white. It's got like this orange tinge to it. So that's also why I wanted to do this house in Oasis Spring, because it didn't matter that it turns the colour slightly orange because the whole house is orange. So I thought it was perfect for this world, so that I could just get over the fact that it makes things a bit orange in colour. So I've started using my fencing trick to try and limit where the wall trims go, and also making sure that all the tops of the half walls, or that the wood, the tops, I don't know what they're called. What's it called? So those are the top of the half wall trims. I don't know. Half wall trims? I'm not sure. They are like this orangey wood colour, so that it kind of molds in and disappears a little bit into the orange wall, so it doesn't stand out too much and it looks like it's part of the building, and it just gives a little bit of detailing to the roof. So on the top there is a space where you can have like a roof terrace. I haven't furnished that bit or that whole building, so it's like 3 floors, 2 floors with rooms, and then the top floor, which is a roof terrace. I have not furnished that or done anything, so they are empty. So if you do download this house, you can kind of have it your own space to furnish. You could use it for if you have a Sims family that has like multiple generations, so like the grandparents live there, that is a place where you could have like an apartment, so you can have the grandparents live there and have a little kitchen, lounge and bedroom. Or you can turn that into extra bedrooms, because this only has 3 bedrooms, even though it's quite a large house. Or you can turn it into like a study or something else. So the options are there to kind of turn this into something that you want it and add a bit of your own character. Of course, you can delete all the furniture and refurnish it any way you like, but like I said, you get the option of customizing a whole section. And also, I didn't know what I wanted to do with it. I did think about making a study, but in the end I decided to leave it blank, especially because I spent so long furnishing this house and building it. I was just like, no, I'm done now. So this section is like a little weird like oasis, I would call it. So as you enter the front door, you have like this like diagonal wall cutouts, which just give a little bit of interesting detail, I suppose, which is open so the air can go through, and then there's a secondary front door, and this is the door that will allow access to the house. So that is why there's two doors, basically. It's because of these diagonal cutouts that I wanted, and in the reference pictures they kind of were there. So I've used the smallest half wall and the second highest half wall to create this flower bed detailing, and then just put a little fountain, because this is ideally going to be like a meditation or zen-y little garden for the person in this bedroom off the side here. So on the ground floor are the two bedrooms, and the master bedroom is on the first floor, and then all the living spaces obviously on the ground floor. I think we're going to be ready to kind of start decorating the house, which was my favorite part. Even watching it back, I really loved the way it was decorated, just because it was so different to what I normally do. Oh, and this is a little indoor garden, which I really like. So a little detail as you come into the house, you've got this little like desert cactus garden, which I just think is cool. And I know that Mia Stammer, I know I've talked about her house all the time, but I just think she has the most beautiful house. It's just so unique. She's got like a little indoor garden as you enter, so she's got like a double entryway, which I just think is just so cool. But yeah, so I think we're going to start decorating now. For the kitchen, I wanted it to be quite modern looking. It uses a lot of monochromatic colors, which I love. Dark countertops or dark counters in a kitchen with like a contrasting counter, so you have like an island of one color and then a very light counters like hugging the wall. And this is kind of what I did in this room. So I've got the black island with the very bright white counters that actually hug the wall, and then on the back wall I just used these full height cabinets, and I think these came with the cool kitchen stuff back, but I really liked the modern look of it. I just thought that it all looked modern, and I like the mismatchiness of the counters. So like all the cabinets and the two different counters all have their own little style and look, so it's not a cohesive design at all, which I really like. I think making a kitchen can be quite difficult, so trying to mix and match the different kitchen units and counters that come with the different packs is just a fun way of making it look a little bit different and giving it your own little unique touch, and making it look a bit more interesting. Because I mean, if you build a lot of houses in The Sims, there's kind of only so many styles or kitchen designs you can use when you just use one cohesive counter throughout the kitchen. So it just adds, like, I would say an infinite amount of options, but not really. It just adds probably about 200 more options, and you just get to play around a little bit more. For lighting, I use the Get Famous, I think it's for the Get Famous or Get to Work, sorry. The Get to Work like studio lights, which I don't use very often, so it was fun to use them in this setting. And because the house is quite modern, it didn't look like it was out of place. It kind of looked quite cool and industrial, which a lot of modern houses seem to use, at least like industrial mix with the ultra sleek and modern fittings. So I just thought it looked really nice with the kitchen. I did initially have this island or breakfast counter with bench seating, but I do delete it once I do the dining room, because I just realized that the it's just too cluttered when you have the big dining table, because I wanted a 6-seater dining table. Once you have all the chairs around it, it's a little bit cluttered looking, and when you've got such a big house, you don't want it to look cluttered, because that's just crazy. So I did delete all the bench seating, and to be honest, they have so many options of places to sit. So they can sit at the dining room table, or they can even sit outside. There is just so many options for dining, and a lot of the times they sit on the sofa, which really annoys me, but what can you do? The Sims have free will and all that jazz. But the kitchen pretty much is done. So as I said, I kept the colours quite minimal, black, white, with the brown wood accents on the cabinets, and then I just added this really bright painting, which I just thought complemented the space, because I feel like, well, in my head this is how it kind of is designed. So the person wanted something that was quite contemporary, modern, but simple, and then they wanted to add a splash of colour, so they added some bright abstract artwork, because that's something you can change out, whereas cabinets obviously are more of an investment. So they went with a more modern and contemporary and simplistic colour scheme, so they could just change out the artwork and just give it a little bit more personality with the art. Just jumping to the other side of the house, I'm just putting in the staircase using the wall panels that I use quite a lot. I really do like them. They just add a lot of character, and you actually can do so much with them, which is crazy, because I use them all the time, whether that's on the exterior of the house. I use it in this house where I couldn't join the walls because I used various levels and various heights. So the patio section outside has got a raised patio, so you can't have the walls of the main house touching that, so they're always a 1 square away. And just to close off that space, I did use those vertical wall panels just to close it off and make it look like it was one cohesive design or building, and there wasn't a gap, because that just looked weird. I also used it for fencing around the pool to cut it off from the back garden section, which again is very blank. So if you do download this house, you can really customize it and add so much. So if you've got like toddlers or anything, you can make like a kids play area on that back section, and it will be separated from the pool section, so that would be quite cool. So there's a lot of options. At the moment it's furnished for 2 teenagers and the master bedroom, so but you can just change that out and put kids stuff in there and have a swing and playground area, because there is so much space to kind of add whatever you want in the garden. So really you can do whatever you want. They can have the big ass jungle gym if you wanted to. For the dining room, as you can see, I went through so many different options and ideas for the table and chairs. I mean, I don't know, I was so confused on what I wanted to do and how I wanted it to look. So I tried out loads of different options and designs, and in the end I went with this very simple black table with the glass insert in the middle. And I love this Persian rug. I just think it is so nice. But my only my only criticism is that it's slightly too narrow for this dining table and the chairs. So I mean, in real life I wouldn't have that rug being that size, but when you size it up, it just goes from like that manageable size to like a huge size. So in the end I just stuck with that, and it works for the purpose. It's not like The Sims when they push the chairs underneath the table, it's going to catch on the rug anyway. So in real life that's what would happen, and that's why I wouldn't have it. But for The Sims, they don't care, and it doesn't make a difference. So I thought it worked, and I love how it turned out. The only thing I wish I changed or added was a picture on that back wall, especially when I changed the colour of the wall later on to a more muted tone, because at the time when I designed it, it was this orange colour, so I didn't put a picture there. But later on I do change the colour, and I wish I'd put a picture or something there just to add a little bit more interest. And I really like that forest green wall colouring for that back wall. I just thought that was really nice. For the lounge, I went with these Chesterfield modern style sofas, and just kept it in a simple white colour, and then had these lemon yellow modern style chairs, which I just thought were so cute, and I just really love them. And I don't use them very often, so that was fun. And I don't know if I keep that rug? I think I do. That zebra print rug which came with Get Famous. And kind of when I decided to build this house, I was determined to use the leopard print one and that rug. So that is kind of what spurred me on to do this more eclectic or eccentric style with clashing patterns and colours, instead of just going with the safer design choices. For this entryway, I wanted to do an entry table because in a regular house you generally have an entryway table just to throw your keys and everything else. And I played around with this idea of doing a mirror with like a gallery wall, but it just didn't look right, and just looked a little bit cluttered. So I do change that out and just put a simple circular mirror, the big one, above the entryway table, and then added a lamp and some decorations. And you'll see in a bit that I do add an ottoman. I actually use this trick quite a lot in houses. I don't think I've used it very much in my previous speed builds, but I do it in other houses before I started doing my Sims channel. So I have this entryway table, which you can find in surfaces, and it's like a miscellaneous surface. And then I put an ottoman with move objects on sheet. I put an ottoman underneath it so it looks like it's a seating area, and it's a great way of doing like a faux vanity as well. So before the vanities came out, and I think that was with Get Famous as well, so before there was the option to have vanities with the chair, I used to kind of do that. They weren't workable, but to be honest, even when I do have vanities in my Sims houses, I never use them, so it doesn't really make a difference if they're usable or not, in my opinion. It's just for the aesthetic and to make it more realistic. That's why I use that little cheat, just to get around it and make it look like it functions even though it doesn't. For this entryway, or the corridor even, it was quite a long one, so I just wanted to keep it very simple. And I love these abstract art pieces. I don't know what pack they came with, but I do use them a lot. Or when you just saw a little snap or a little look at that bright pink purple wall against the orange, which I just think is so cool and is similar to what the reference pictures showed. So that's why I wanted to keep it quite close to the original. Sorry, I've got a bit of a hiccup at the moment, but yeah, so I wanted to keep it quite simple to the similar to the reference pictures. Get your words out, come on. So I added that pink wall, but I don't think you really see it because it goes so fast. When I was doing the wall colorings, you don't really see that detail, but as I go through also with rooms, I like to pull them out. If I see something that doesn't quite fit with this room, but I want it in another one, I will pull it out and put it into the other room. So you'll see that second bedroom has like a bed in it and a chest of drawers now. And that's just because as I find things that kind of fit with the style that I'm kind of going with, or what I think I want in another room, I'll pull it out, and it saves me looking for it. And also that way I don't forget kind of what my train of thought is or what I thought I wanted. For this bedroom, I wanted it to have like a boho-y feel. I actually did this before I got Island Living. I did this a long time ago. So I didn't have like the bohemian furniture, but I really liked the way it turned out, and I love this chest of drawers, which has got the white outside with the wood drawers, and then it's like got this mud cloth pattern, which I just think is so cool and fitted the room so well. And then used the futon bed, which I never use, from, I think it came with City Living or Get Together. No, I think it came with City Living, and I hardly ever use this futon bed. And I just went through the swatches and I really liked the colorways, and I thought it just suited the boho style a little bit more. And I really like the red one. I don't use it, but there is a red option with like a floral pattern on it, which I'm going to use in a future build because I just thought it was quite nice and different, and I never use like such patterned bedspreads because I tend to go for the more plain colours and then decorate the room around it. So going off a bed for the design will be quite interesting, and a little bit of a challenge because who doesn't love a challenge, right? So between the two bedrooms there is 2 bathrooms, so an ensuite for each room. They're very small, and they match each other, so they're copies of the other room, but you'll see that in a little bit. So this is like a boy room ideally. Obviously a girl can be in there. I'm not trying to tell you that you have to have a certain style or anything, or you have to conform to stereotypical gender roles, but in my mind it was like more of a masculine color way with a more masculine feel, but obviously anyone can have this room. So it's got like a lot of dark furniture with blue bedding, and I really like this bed which came with outdoor retreat. And again, it's one I don't use very often just because it generally doesn't suit the style of the rooms that I'm doing, or the house itself, but because this is more of an eccentric or eclectic house, furnishing wise, I felt like I could just play around a bit more and use things that I wouldn't normally use and mix and match the styles a bit more and have it less clean cut, I suppose. So I really like how it turned out, and I like this use of like really weird furniture. So you got like this cabiny bed with the giraffe lampshade, which I just think is so cool. I mean, I would have that in real life, no doubt. It's just so funny and weird, but I think it all kind of works together in a fun way. So the boys' bathroom is again got the same colorways with the blue counters and the black countertops, and then all the shower and the toilet is all like a black color just to keep it nice and dark, whereas the girls' bathroom, or the more feminine style bathroom, has a lot lighter colors. So it's got like this powder blue countertop with pink rug, and then like a bathrobe, because I just feel that's really feminine to have like a bathrobe hanging up in your bathroom. So this master bedroom was just so much fun to do. I really like the way it turned out. Working with these 2 big, I call them bay windows, but I suppose they're like window inserts, was a little bit tricky with the design I went with, and I do end up covering one of the big windows with a wardrobe, but I think it just looks quite cool in the end, and I mean, you can't really tell that it's there or anything, so it doesn't destroy the look of the house at all. So from the outside it's just like got a black back, so it looks fine. But this is where I used the leopard print rug, which I just thought was so cool, and I've never used it, so that was quite fun to use. A rug I've never used but wanted to use or find some way of incorporating into a house. So I'm glad that I found something that worked well with it, and it's just got this quite modern black bed. I'm not sure what it came with. I think this might be a base game bed actually. I'm not sure, but the bathroom itself, because I wanted the furnishing to be quite dark with some colourful highlights. So I didn't want it to be too feminine or too masculine, so it's kind of neutral gender wise, but it's got these really cool touches of, I would say, character. So like your Sims would have to have a bit of like character, or like things to be a little bit more out there or different, I think, to live in this house. But yeah, so the furniture throughout the master area, so the bathroom and the bedroom, is quite dark with hints of a bit of a little bit more colour and brightness. So in the bedroom you've got this pink wall, which you'll see in a minute, which was just quite nice against the stark black bed and the leopard print rug. It just made it look quite light, gave it a little bit more interesting detail. But in the end I just decided to have it on the one wall for the against the bed, because it just felt like it was too much in the room, and also because the room itself is quite modern. I didn't want it to look too old looking, because it's got like wainscoting, which is quite an old-fashioned style for wall covering. So I just kept it as a feature wall detail. And then I wanted to add a little seating area, because the room's quite large. Finding things to furnish big rooms is quite a challenge, because I've never lived in a room or in a house where a bedroom is big enough to need more than a bed and a wardrobe and a vanity. I find it quite difficult to decorate these really big master bedrooms. So I generally go with like a little seating area, which, to be honest, my Sims never use. But I kind of had the seating area with these really nice modern chairs with the pop of colour. So I just wanted to add as much colour and clashing colours as possible without it looking too busy or over the top. Just to give the idea of it being a little bit different and carefree, I suppose, with design choices. So for the exterior of the house, considering everything is a little bit brighter inside, I wanted to keep it quite simple outside, especially because there is the bright orange walls like everywhere. So all the furnishing outside is a bit more neutral, so it's white, basically white or like a beige color, just so it didn't look like it was overpowering or trying to, you know, compete against the very, very, very rich and bright colors on the exterior of the house. And just adding some lighting to make sure that it was well lit, especially at night times, because like if you've got this house, you would expect that you would do a lot of entertaining and stuff like that, because I mean it is a bit fancy and a little bit different, so you need a bit of outdoor lighting so that, you know, you can use it, have parties at night time, and there's like a bar area and a lounge area, and then there's also a sunbathing section, because I mean if you live in Oasis Springs, you're bound to have a lot of hot weather, so you want to take advantage of that. So, you know, put some lounges there, but to be honest, it's decorated quite sparsely because I didn't want it to be too busy or anything like that. So it just has all the essentials that you need to entertain and have a party, but it's not cluttered or over the top or anything like that. The landscaping, I do, like I said before, I like to keep the landscaping quite similar to the surrounding areas landscaping that's already there. So before I do the landscaping, I like to look at what is surrounding the lot. So in Oasis Springs, it's a desert world, or desert town, I suppose. So it does have more cactus and like deserty I suppose, flowers, or I suppose flowers is the wrong word because they don't flower, but it has more desert plant life. So that's kind of what I went for. There are no trees or anything like that. I mean, you can have palm trees, but I didn't want anything to be too high because I wanted the house to be the highest, like the house to have all the height instead of trees that surround it. So all the plants are smaller, so there's a lot of cactus and rocks and things like that, just to add a bit of interesting landscaping, but without it being too over the top or anything like that. And a good way just to make it look a bit fuller, because I mean, you can go crazy and just have plants literally covering this whole section, but because it's also a desert like world, realistically you wouldn't have loads of plants all on top of each other. So just use terrain paint to kind of fill in those like more blank areas, so it doesn't look like it's under landscape, I suppose. And what I found was a really good way of doing the landscaping was to do the rocks in these like little clusters. Initially, on the landscaping I did previously, I put the rocks in last, and it just looked like they were just a bit like scattered around the place. So when I used the rocks to make little clusters, it just seemed a bit more thought out and less like just put in the blank spaces. But this is pretty much the whole house and the landscaping. Like I said, I kept it quite simple, and I didn't want it to be too green or too luscious looking. Oh, that's a nice word, luscious. Anyway, I'm getting distracted. So I like to keep it quite simple. So just kept like the cactus style and used some terrain paint just to add a bit of colour and definition and break up that sandy ground or landscape. What you can do if you wanted to is add a garden, like a green garden section to the house in the back where there is loads of space to do whatever you want. So you can have like a green garden, because I did actually used to live in like not the desert, but I used to live in Africa, and we had this one section of the garden where we had like sprinklers, not all the time, but like twice a day, water this patch of grass so that we'd have grass, but everything else was just dirt. But my mom was determined to have grass, so you could have something like that. So they have like a sprinkler system or something that keeps this one section of like perfectly manicured grass if you wanted at the back. But that is something you can do. You can download this house. It is called the Orange Mirage. It is on the gallery. You can find it. My name is Queen of York, just Queen of York, and you can find all my houses. If you do download this, let me know if you customize it, how you've changed it. Also, let me know what you thought of the house in the comments down below, and if you have any suggestions of any other styles that you think I should try building or anything like that, I'd love to know your suggestions. And also try a new challenge that is a little bit different. But I have a lot of other speed builds. I'm currently doing a Strangeville Let's Play, so make sure you check those out if you haven't already, and make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell so you stay updated every time I post a new video. And make sure you give this video a thumbs up to let me know you liked it, and I will see you guys very soon with my very next video. Dag dag!